Hi there, it's Jennifer, and I'm here today to do another video in my series on long distance walking. And today we're going to be talking about shoes and the kinds of shoes that you should get so that you have the most comfortable walking experience. Now you may think that if you're a walker, you should get a shoe called a walking shoe. And nothing could be farther from the truth. When shoes are designated as walking shoes, they're really meant for like walking at the park or walking around a fair or something like that. They're really not meant for long distance walking. When you're doing long distance walking, even if you're getting out the door on a regular basis and walking 3 or 4 miles, you really need a sturdy shoe that is a running shoe. And the difference is that, well, there are a couple of differences in walking shoes. A lot of walking shoes are big and heavy, and some are all leather, and they're usually not breathable. And running shoes always have some kind of a mesh material, and they let your feet breathe, which is really important. So a lot of times they're big and clunky. They're also, like, this is a shoe that is a walking shoe by Skechers. And it is a really lightweight shoe. I think it's 5 ounces or something. It is really flexible and bendable. It's extremely comfortable, but it is not good for long distance walking. I kind of thought maybe it was from some of the reviews that I read, and I did a 15K in this, so that's 9.3 miles, and the bottoms of my feet were really sore at the end, and so I knew that this wasn't going to be a good shoe. I'm glad I did that race in these shoes though, because I was thinking of using them for a half marathon, and if I had worn these for a half marathon, I would have been in a lot of pain. So walking shoes typically are either too clunky and heavy or just too flimsy, and so you need a shoe with more support. Now here's the thing, different people walk differently. And so you need to get a shoe that matches the way you have your foot strike. And you might think, well, how in the world do I do that? You can go into a lot of running stores where they sell running shoes and have them do a foot strike analysis on you. Some places will just have you walk across the room and they'll watch you to see what your feet do. And other places, I went to one place that actually got me, they put me on a treadmill and they had me just start walking. Now if I had been a runner, I would have been running on this thing, but they had me walk, and there was a camera at foot level that was filming me. And then after they had me, walk for a couple minutes on this thing, they went back through frame by frame by frame to see what my foot did when it hit the ground, rolled forward, and then from that, they actually were able to narrow it down to 4 shoes in their whole store. Because if you walk into a running store, they have so many shoes and you just don't even know where to start. So let me just say that you don't start with looking for the cutest shoe. You start with looking for the shoes that are best for the way you walk, and then from those few shoes that you have to choose from, then you can pick one that you think is the cutest. But okay, so let me explain a little bit about different ways that people walk, and I'm going to link some information from professionals over on my website at BusyBeingJen.com, because as I've said before, I'm not a professional, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a healthcare professional, I'm just a person who's done a whole lot of walking and a lot of races, and I've read a lot and I've just learned a lot. So I'll link some stuff from some reputable sources that you can check out too. But there are different ways that people walk. Now, most people do what is called pronating, and that means that, okay, this is my husband's shoe. He's a pronator, so I'm going to show you about this shoe. But most people, when they walk, and then as they come forward, they kind of lean in a little bit. So their foot leans in, and over time, that is bad on your feet and your ankles. That's going to end up hurting your knees and hips and all that kind of stuff over time. And so what you need is a shoe that has a support on the inside that keeps your foot from rolling in. So if you go into a running store and you take a look at shoes, If you see a shoe that has the sole of the shoe is blue, you can see here, but then it has this gray insert in here. And a lot of shoes that you will see will have a different color insert in the sole right here on the inside of the arch. And that typically means that there is an inserted piece into the sole that has more stability than the rest of the sole. And the idea is, of course, when my husband wears this shoe, when his foot starts to lean in, this pushes back at him and keeps it so that he has a neutral gait when he's walking. So that is for people who, that's called pronating. Did I say that? When you roll in, it's called pronating. There's also the opposite called supinating, and that's where you lean to the outside, and that's what I do. Now, apparently not many people do this, because I went into a running store one time and I said, you know, I need a pair of shoes, and I supinate, and this guy looks at me and he goes, nobody supinates. So I showed him the bottom of a pair of shoes that I had, and they were worn on this outer part. And I found that before I was wearing the right shoe, that my outer 3 little toes on the outside would pinch down on each other with every step, and I would end up with blisters on those toes, and it was because my foot was rolling out. So they don't have a shoe that has a hard piece on the outside that pushes back at you that way. The best thing that you can do if you supinate is to get what they call a neutral cushion shoe. And it actually doesn't have a lot of support to it. They're not completely flimsy, but it doesn't have a lot of support. So it forces for me, it forces my foot to roll in a little bit, making me have a more neutral foot strike. So they can check those things. And there are different kinds of shoes. I think there's, like I said, I'm going to link this over on my blog, BusyBeingJen.com. But they have neutral cushion shoes you can get, and there are shoes that are stability shoes, and I can't remember the names of them. But if you go into a running store, this is really important. Go in there and just tell them you're a walker, but you're walking a lot and walking long distances, and you want a good running shoe. And then they will either have some kind of fancy smancy thing like that one store had, or they'll actually have you walk for them so that they can see how you're walking. You can also look at the bottom of your shoes to see where you're wearing them out, and that will give you some indication. If you take a look at, this is that flimsy walking shoe that I was wearing, and if you look at this, it's worn on the outside up here. It's not terribly worn on the outside of this because it is a flimsy shoe, and so it's not pushing me to the outside. All right, so that is just really important, because you just need something so that your feet are comfortable, and and then your ankles and everything else will feel better if you're in the right shoe. The other thing is, if you're going to be walking long distances, it's a good idea to get a shoe that's just a tiny, tiny bit too big, because as you walk, your feet will swell. Now, if you're just going to be a casual walker, say you want to commit to walking more often, and you're going to be walking, say, 4 days a week, 3 or 4 miles, then you probably don't need to worry about getting a shoe that's a little on the big side. But you do if you are going to be going out for long, long distances, because your feet will swell a little bit as you go long distances, and you need to have room in your shoe. Now, case in point, I had this one pair of shoes, it was a pair of Nikes. They were so comfortable. I trained for a full marathon in them. And I was up here in Flagstaff, where we have chilly weather in the fall. And it's not like down in Phoenix in the desert. And so we have chilly weather, and I trained in these shoes, and my feet felt great the whole time. And these shoes fit me perfectly. Well, then I went to do my full marathon in Phoenix, where it happened to be warmer than usual that day, and I think it was 70-something degrees, and my feet did swell, and I ended up with the biggest blood blister on the bottom of one of my feet, on the bottom of one of my toes, and so the whole bottom of the toe was just a blood blister. And I lost a toenail on my big toe because my feet had swelled and then they were hitting the end of the shoe. I didn't really notice it in the race that the toe was hitting the end of the shoe, but a couple weeks later, my toenail started to turn yellow, and next thing I know, it fell off. So I've never had that happen before. But if I had had a shoe that was a little, like a half size too big, then that would have taken care of that problem. So I always try to get, I wear a size 9 shoe, so I always try to get a 9.5 when I get a shoe for my long distance walking. All right, now I've mentioned in the past that I have trouble with my feet. I've had a couple of foot surgeries, bunion surgeries. I have a screw in one of my feet. And so I just have always had difficulty finding shoes that fit right and that are comfortable. And with long distance walking, it has kind of exacerbated that because of putting so much stress on my feet. I've tried so many different kinds of shoes and always found that I just had pain. And when I did a full marathon, I would get shooting pains in my feet from about the 15th mile on to the 26th mile. Yeah. So that is not fun. And that's kind of why I thought I would never do another full marathon. But then I discovered a kind of shoe that has been so wonderful for me. And I'm not telling you about this because I think you should run out and get it. I'm telling you because you have to go and try out different shoes. And if you find one that does okay when you're just, you know, trotting around a few miles, great, use it for that. But then if you get to higher miles and you find that you're getting blisters or something, you know, you should probably switch to a different shoe until you find something that works. So a few years back, my sister-in-law had told me about a pair of Skechers that she had gotten. And I thought, Skechers? You know, they're just play shoes. Why would I get Skechers for long distance walking? And as it turns out, Skechers has really changed their shoes, and they have lines of walking shoes and running shoes. And remember, for this, you're gonna want running shoes. And they have a different series of different kinds of running shoes. They have the Go Run series of shoes, and then they have a whole bunch of different kinds. So this is a Skechers. And this, what I really like about it, if you look at this shoe, the bottom looks pretty flat. If you look at the bottom of this shoe, you notice that it kind of rounds a little bit. And from what I understand, the rounding of the shoe forces a mid-foot strike. And for me, that is what I need, because when I have worn these shoes, my feet have not gotten sore. And I also find, usually when I start a race, my shins kind of lock up a little bit, and it takes about 1.5 miles or so before those muscles loosen up, and they just kind of, you know, they kind of ache because I'm pushing it fast in a race from the beginning. Normally, if I just go out for my, you know, daily walks, I'm not walking that fast at the beginning. So anyway, I found that I don't get my shins locking up as much when I wear these. Now, I have not done a full marathon in this kind of shoe, so I have no idea what this is gonna do when I start getting to 15, 16, 18, 20 miles. I will find out as I'm training for this race. I won't be getting up to those distances until the fall, but I will be able to find out when I get to those distances if this makes a difference. Now, this, you know, this is a cute pair of shoes. I didn't pick them because they were cute. I was looking for a neutral cushion shoe, and I wanted Skechers. I've had several pairs of these. They have mesh up here, and they don't have mesh on the, oh, they do up here. They have mesh here and mesh on the toe, and that makes this a breathable shoe. My husband's shoe also has mesh here. His actually has mesh, more mesh on it around. So you want to make sure that you get one that's breathable. So yeah, I love this shoe, and it is one that really works well for me. It may not work well for you. Now let me just tell you that running shoes are not cheap. I have spent, I think my most expensive pair was $130, And but expensive doesn't always mean the best for you. You really have to just look for the shoe that fits you the best. This one is $85. They used to be a lot cheaper. Now they've gained so much popularity that Skechers is raising their prices. But this is an $85 shoe, and I think worth every penny. It also fits really nice inside. It's got a nice glove fit almost. You could wear it even without socks, although I never would, because then the inside of your shoes would stink. But you can wash these though. You can put them through, you can really put any running shoe into a washing machine and wash them. A lot of times if I train on a trail, or even when I go do a race and you're walking through aid stations where they have sports drink and people are kind of splashing it on the ground and stuff, it gets all over your shoes. I want to wash them when I get home. So you can wash these. So, okay, here's the other thing about shoes. They don't last forever. And if you're using them for some serious walking, you're really only supposed to put 400 to 450 miles on a shoe. And then it's considered kind of worn out. Does it mean that you need to throw it away? Absolutely not. Because you can get to 400 miles on a shoe. And I'm probably, on this one, I'm probably at about 250 on this one. But you can get to 400 miles on a shoe, and the shoe still looks really nice and it feels good and it's not falling apart, but it's just broken down enough inside that the support isn't going to be as good. So when you get to that point with your shoes, just retire it over in your closet to shoes that you wear for just knocking around, and then go get yourself another pair of shoes. So let me tell you about transitioning to a new pair of shoes. If you are doing, okay, say you're just doing casual, you know, walking 4 days a week or something, and then you have gotten to the point where you've put too many miles on a shoe, you can just go out and get a pair of shoes and just start walking. Just go out the door. No big deal. You don't have to do any fancy thing to transition because you're not putting tons and tons of miles on the shoe. If you are training for a race, then you have to transition kind of carefully. So I have a half marathon that I'm doing in August. This pair of shoes has about 250 miles on it. So I'm gonna have to get another pair of shoes before that race. So what I'm gonna do is when this gets to about 450 miles, then I'm gonna get another pair, and I will wear my new pair on my shorter walks, on those days that I'm just going out for 3 or 4 miles, and I'm gonna wear my old shoe when I'm going out for longer distances. Then, as my new shoe starts to get broken in a little bit, because if you just go and jump into a new pair of shoes and go do a race, you will end up with problems. And I did that once. I knew better, but my old pair of shoes was probably not any better. I just didn't transition right. And so I just figured that the new pair would be better, and it was a mistake. So anyway, so then once you get the new shoe kind of broken in, you can take it out you can wear that one for some longer walks, and when it feels comfortable for that, then you take your old shoe, retire it to just being a play shoe, and then now you've got your broken in shoe that you're gonna use for your race. So I will be doing that this summer. So this pair of shoes right here is not the pair that I will be wearing for my half marathon in August. It will take me through part of my training, but it will not be the shoe that I'm racing in. Then, once I get to that race, and then I'm gonna start training for my full marathon after that, I'm gonna have to do another transition again, because that next pair of shoes that I get, that I'll be using for my half marathon in August, will not be the shoe I'll be wearing for my full marathon in January. So I'll have to make another transition. So you just need to make sure that you're kind of using the new shoe for shorter walks, and then once it's starting to feel broken in, then you can transition. There are some people that say that you should take the insert, like there's a sole insert on a lot of pairs of shoes that you can remove. Some people will say take the inserts out of both shoes and swap them. So you have the insert from the old shoe put inside the new shoe, and the insert from the new shoe put inside the old shoe, and that helps to break that in. I have not gone to that extent with transitioning my shoes. I just, you know, just wear one for shorter distances for a while and then switch it over. Okay, so that's it. And like I said, there's going to be more information on my blog. So if you want to find out about all the different kinds of shoes there are, then you can read about some of those things. But I really strongly suggest that rather than just going into a shoe store and walking over to the few pair of athletic shoes they have and grabbing one, I would suggest that you go into an actual running store, running shoe store, and ask them. Just say, I need to know, you know, what kind of shoe to get. Ask them if they do a foot strike analysis, and have them help you narrow it down. It doesn't mean that you're going to find the perfect shoe the first time, but each time you'll know a little bit differently what's happening. So one pair of shoes was rubbing the inside of my toe. As I mentioned, I've had others that have caused me to pinch on the outsides of my feet. They're just different things that can happen in your shoes, and so after you try a pair of shoes and see what's not quite right, the next time you go to get a shoe, you can tell them about that, and they'll help you get a better fit for yourself. Now, a lot of running stores too will allow you to actually use the shoe. Go outside and use the shoe for 30 days, and if you're not happy with it, you take it back. So that's a really good deal too. So I would ask them if they have anything like that. And if you have several running stores in your area and you find that one doesn't have a deal like that, go check with other ones first before you make your purchase. Because it's, you know, it's an investment for a pair of shoes. It's taking care of your feet. It's making your exercise more or less comfortable. And they're not cheap. So you should really take the time to find a decent pair of shoes. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope you guys are getting out the door and putting some miles on your shoes and feeling good and clearing your head by walking. And I hope you're also thinking about possibly doing some kind of a race, even if it's just starting with a 5K. Once again, if you are thinking that you are wanting to do longer distances or walk more often, or maybe even sign up for a race, I'd love to hear about that. So I'd ask you to comment below. I would just love to hear about what your plans are. And I will have more videos in the future. Right now I have plans to do one a week. And so hopefully you'll join me on that in the future. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, just hit that button. YouTube will let you know when I upload new videos. So I hope I will see you again, and take care. Bye-bye.